to our next plenary, which is Professor Zahir Irani. Good morning, or maybe it's afternoon now. Professor Irani is Deputy Vice-Chancellor at the University of Bradford with responsibility for academic innovation and quality. He's worked across academia in senior management roles and previously worked for the UK government as a senior policy advisor in the Cabinet Office. He's also the chair of the Bradford and District Council COVID-19 Economic Recovery Board, and it's really mainly in that role that we've invited him to speak today. Professor Irani will share a case study showing how education institutions can successfully engage in the economic regeneration and development of their local communities. This case study is an initiative that he leads in Bradford and is a wonderful, newish example of the role of education in empowering transformational change. Professor Irani, thank you very much for joining us, and over to you.
Thank you. Can I just confirm that you can hear and see my slides?
Absolutely.
Wonderful, thank you. So thank you for that very nice and colourful introduction. It's always nice to hear yourself being played back by an introducer. So thank you. I'm really pleased to be giving you an address today. And over the next half hour or so, I'm going to be talking you through a journey that we've had within Bradford, and in particular in my role as the chair of the Bradford Economic Recovery Board, and then I will give you a bit of an outline of some of the actions that we've taken forward within the School of Management at the University of Bradford. So where is Bradford? Well, Bradford, as you can see on the map, is it's not quite northeast and it's not quite northwest of the UK, of England. We are in the top northern part, and as you can see, we're a very broad district. We are in Yorkshire. We're a major city in Yorkshire, and in fact, we're the sixth largest city in the UK. So we're actually quite a large by geographical size, but also in terms of population. The population of around 640,000 residents. And back in the 19th century, we were actually the wool capital of the world. So in Yorkshire and in Bradford district, we have lots of sheep, and we're very proud of our sheep. But as I mentioned, we continue to be a wool producer and a meat producer, and we're also have a large number of industries in our region. But it is fair to say that following deindustrialisation of the 19th century and 20th century, that we did struggle and have and continue to struggle both in terms of economic and social challenges. And I'll be talking through some of our economic responses to those challenges. I think it's fair to say that COVID, as we know, arrived globally, but in particular to my region at a time of real challenge. As a region trying to really better understand what the implications and actually what the opportunities are of climate change, but also deep societal changes, recognising that there are societal influences in terms of changing populations, changing expectations, changing demands of the system have been something that we've had to try and better understand both as a region, but actually even as a nation. And also better understand the impact of exiting the European Union. Again, as a country, that's something we've really struggled with, and I'm sure you're all very well aware of the challenges that we've had in recent years. COVID has really created a significant amount of global challenge, and for the UK and for the region that I work in, it has been particularly pronounced. In the UK, it's recorded as the deepest economic recession over the last 300 years, and we've seen a contraction, a shrinking of our expected GDP over the year by about 11%. And I think that demonstrates, and I'm sure you're all experiencing within your own geographical region, some of the challenges that you're having to deal with. We can see that there is a significant loss of life. It's affected people's mental and physical well-being, and it's also taken away our personal liberties. In the UK, we are currently under lockdown restrictions, although there is a pathway now of exiting those lockdown restrictions, and that's had a dramatic impact on employment, employability, and of course the operation of many businesses. And I think that again is one of a number of drivers that have helped shape what is our economic recovery. What COVID has also done within our region is highlighted some really significant social and economic inequalities, and I will touch upon some of those inequalities, and in particular, it's affected my region, and it's identified some of the most disadvantaged communities being extremely vulnerable in a way that perhaps we hadn't quite realised. So I think collectively what the pandemic has done, and it really needs to be considered very much as a health, educational, societal and economic crisis, and not just through the lenses of financial implications, because I think the implications are far, far broader for my region. And there are a number of reasons why Bradford district has been particularly affected. Well, one of the main reasons is because we are in fact the youngest city in the UK. We've got a very large population of 16 to 24-year-olds, and we all know that it's that population that's been particularly hit hard in terms of employment, and I suspect are going to continue to struggle seeking employment over the following number of years. But also Bradford district has a very high proportion of black and minority ethnic residents as part of our community, and we also know that the employability data and the ability to contribute towards economic value and activity is less from those parts of the BAME, as we call them in the UK, resident communities. So those two factors are significant issues within the Bradford District Council. And as you can see on both of the graphs, the graph on the left-hand side indicates unemployment across the 16 to 64-year-old age group, and the UK average up till around December, because the data reported is somewhat historical now, but certainly up until December, the UK average was around 6.3%, and you can see that Bradford has a higher level of unemployment. And again, that's partly because of our community and our makeup that we have across the Bradford district region, both in terms of the BAME residents, but also in terms of the age profile. And the graph to the right is particularly looking at the age profile of 18 to 24-year-olds, so those young residents we have within our district. And again, because we have a large proportion of young residents, you can see that Bradford is particularly negatively impacted and significantly higher than the UK average. So these are really big issues for the Economic Recovery Board to deal with, to ensure that Bradford is able to respond positively, recognising our challenges, but also recognising the opportunities. And it was very clear that when we commissioned, and the Economic Recovery Board was commissioned by the Bradford District Metropolitan Council, that when it was commissioned and I was appointed as the chair, we decided that we made it very clear to communicate that we did not want to go back to normal, because actually normal wasn't good enough. And we really wanted to design and create a really ambitious strategy that was going to power the region into economic growth and prosperity, but recognising that we had got a significant amount of way to go in order to realise that potential. Now, we did not start from a starting position of zero. The region already had an economic strategy that had been designed to run from 2018 to 2030. And what we were particularly keen to do was to stress test that strategy to try and identify what were those factors that were going to boost productivity and employment, whilst also ensuring that we're able to build an inclusive, sustainable and a resilient economy, an economy that was resilient and that was able to deal with future shocks that may come anytime in the future. And that in the short term was a prolonged period of lockdown and a slow period of economic recovery. And we also recognised that recession that we were in was a COVID-induced recession, that actually regionally we were in a period of growth. We also recognised that it did identify inequalities in our communities, both in terms of early learners, but right through to some of our more mature residents in our community, and the challenges that they were going to have in order to support their skills development and reskilling, but also to seeking employment as well. And finally, recognising that there was going to be very limited additional funds, although we have seen some further funds to support economic growth and prosperity, but largely those funds are to sustain businesses that already exist, rather than supporting new business development and growth. Now you can see on the left-hand side here that our existing, prior to the work that we led, economic strategy really had 4 dimensions. It really was to support our young and enterprising population, to be very clear in identifying and articulating what our distinctive offer for our region was, but also to identify where there was growth potential, and finally this globally connected district. And it was really those key areas that identified the starting point for our research and for our ultimately our economic recovery plan that will be launched on Monday for our district. And what we did is we identified 4 lenses or work streams that we used to try and interrogate the existing economic strategy to really see if what we had was going to be fit for purpose for the future. And the areas that we decided to focus on were skilled employees and employment in new and growing sectors. Now, those words are really powerful because when we talked about skilled employees and employment, we're talking about skills, but we're also ensuring that those skills can lead to employment. Now, those skills leading to employment will be in new areas, so these are brand new areas that the region perhaps has very little activity or maybe no activity at all, but also looking at which sectors were growing and which sectors we wanted to support. Because actually there were some sectors that we don't really want to put a lot of more effort into. For example, the fast food sector was a growing sector in our region, but that isn't one that we see as wanting to reskill or put a lot more emphasis into growing. That sector will naturally grow. There are other sectors we wanted to prioritise as new sectors to support, or growing sectors that we wanted to continue to support. The other area was around the green economy, and we're really excited about the green economy. We think the green economy is going to be one of the big areas of future growth for the UK and indeed many parts of the world. And we identified that circular economy, the recycling, the reuse, the upskilling and upscaling of activity, and making sure that we're able to adopt a circular economy approach to everything that we do. But also looking at zero carbon, and we want to try and find ways to decarbonise our local economy and to try and increase the use of clean energy, and of course recognising that will create new opportunities for new businesses to be attracted to the region, but also to allow existing businesses to think green, because we recognise that there's a real opportunity to support a global, but also in terms of a UK national campaign of green industrial revolution. The third area was around business startups, and it was quite interesting that what we saw during our first lockdown in the UK was a significant growth in new business startups. Now, that may well be a result of people that were losing employment that wanted to then put their efforts into new business ideas, or people that perhaps had business ideas that were starting to develop, all of a sudden decided that they wanted to put a lot more effort into those areas. But certainly we did see and continue to see business startup ideas growing significantly. But also we wanted to support business startup ideas, not just being small businesses, but support them through entrepreneurial activities and initiatives so that those ideas can be nurtured, can be developed and can grow, where we take small businesses into medium businesses and medium businesses grow into large businesses. Actually, Bradford had got quite a lot of success in taking small businesses to medium size, but not very much success taking medium businesses to grow them into being large businesses that were able to recruit lots of people. So a lot of effort has gone into that particular area. And finally, we really wanted to identify and celebrate and really develop culture and place, recognising that because of our very broad population and our very broad age group, that there were huge opportunities to be a cultural centre of excellence. We already have a UNESCO City of Film, so we are the first World City of Film, and we also have a heritage site in Bradford. So we do actually have some fantastic assets to build on, and recognising that Bradford is not just a city centre, that it is many districts around the city centre with some wonderful greenlands, some moorlands, and some fantastic scenery. So trying to understand the relationship between the city and those towns around, especially given that what COVID has done is created new opportunities of ways of working, and recognising that skills and making sure people have those digital literacy skills may not necessarily be travelling into the city anymore. And you'll see across the bottom, equality, diversity and inclusivity is something again that was being used to try and connect all our activities together. Now, I won't focus much on the West Yorkshire economic recovery, because actually we were very considerate of the factors being taken more broadly across the district or other parts of Yorkshire. And in fact, the one area that we deliberately avoided was around infrastructure and capital investments. And that was because there are some big national campaigns to try and connect Bradford to mainline train lines, which we believe will help with the mobility and movement of people and goods. So the infrastructure aspect was something we didn't really focus on as a group. Now, what we did do is during our research, we identified that there were two other areas that developed and identified themselves as really important for consideration, and that was around health and well-being. And that's because when we were having our discussions as a board with all our stakeholders, there was a very clear connection between a healthy workforce and a healthy economy. And that really took us back to looking at our workforce, not only in the early years, but actually taking a look back into schools and how we can put health interventions in play, because of course school children, college students, university students are the future health workforce. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, trying to better understand how we can try and improve the digital connectivity of our region. So we did have two developing themes that came a bit later in our thinking that of course featured into our final product. As I mentioned earlier, we were very interested in better understanding what the impact, the short-term impact of COVID was going to be, because of course, as we expected to come, and in fact we will come out of lockdown later this year, it's going to take quite a while before we were into a position of recovery. So although we may not have any national or even regional limitations for movement, it's going to take time for the economy to recover. And of course, there are some longer term economic issues we had to consider. So we did give some consideration to the mega trends, as we call them, which were the short-term impacts, as well as the long-term implications of COVID. So in effect, what I've said is that we took the stress testing of the existing economic strategy. We identified what we believe to be the key challenges facing Bradford. As I mentioned, that was around our young population. It was around our large ethnic minority population. We identified what were the short-term implications of COVID and better understood how the council and the local government were supporting some immediate relief, but also we considered what were the longer-term outlook for our region. And the outcome of all that work led to, as you can see, the Bradford opportunity areas. And these really were the areas that we decided were going to be the priority for regional and national funding. And that really was around supporting our young, diverse population and really making sure that we were able to equip them with the skills and confidence to succeed. A focus on the green economy and that transition from a carbon-based economy to a non-carbon-based economy, and ensuring that we're able to support that phased change to decarbonising our region. An emphasis on culture and place, trying to build on the cultural richness that we have in our region, but also recognise that we had to have a very clear definition of what the value of being in Bradford was for those that work in Bradford, for those that live in Bradford, but also for those people that we want to attract to our region. Health and well-being, really to enable that we're able to support people with all of those factors that are going to create a healthy, long-standing and a productive life, and supporting our economic recovery and our growth and development over the years. And finally, an emphasis on technology by really supporting an upskilling of people and a retraining where necessary in order to support new technologies and to drive innovation that we felt we could do in our region. Now, achieving those factors in terms of the focus areas of the Bradford opportunity areas was going to be through what we thought were going to be some strong enablers. These enablers will be the actual things that we do in order to influence the opportunity areas. And for us, it started with education and skills, really trying to develop new and raise existing skill levels in schools, Institute of Technologies that we have across the UK, but none in Bradford, interestingly. So a commitment to develop an Institute of Technology, colleges, university, and of course the voluntary sector. And in particular, trying to identify and grow skills in areas of technology around artificial intelligence, data science, the green economy, and that really starts with changing attitudes that we felt would be necessary in order to support innovation. Culture around the creative industries and community cohesion, and of course health ranging from service delivery, whether that's social care in the community, right through to the supply chains and med tech. All of the pharmaceutical support and upskilling and making sure that we're able to service those sectors and grow those sectors in the health area. We also felt that the business environment needed to really be an attractive a front door for people to want to come to our region. And actually we have some success in areas like our Skills House, which is a local council delivered service. And what we wanted to do was to have a business equivalent where there was a one-stop shop where local businesses could go and ask for advice, could seek support, but also it could provide the one-stop service that could cover everything from large business development right through to small business startups. And we did want to be defined as an area that would be attractive to inward investment. And we didn't see that just in financial terms. We want to be a destination of choice with people that have got creative talent, but also people that have got intellectual capability to support and develop and drive these innovative ideas. An absolute commitment to research and innovation. It's well documented the economic growth and value that research and innovation has. And we also felt that we could create further enhancements through development of a medical school. The university in particular is well known for its work in dementia care and also strong activities of collaboration around green economy, working with local colleges that are very skills and vocationally based in order to ensure that our servicing of our ambition can be realised by having the right people in the right place with the right skills doing the right thing. And finally, infrastructure. But as I mentioned, we carefully navigated around infrastructure because we felt that an understanding of it would help us, but actually these were going to be very large capital expenditure projects, and those were better served through other activities. So in summary, the priority areas, as you can see on the left-hand side, are very clearly defined. But in terms of the young diverse population, we were very ambitious, and our plans have made very clear commitments to supporting and making Bradford a learning district. And that really involves working with our partners to provide access to work. It involves inspiring people of all age groups. It involves reskilling, and it also involves upskilling, so that we can move people out of a service delivery economy into an economy that's really about added value, an economy that's much more higher skilled. In terms of the green economy, we've made a commitment to supporting a green initiative in our area, and I will just give you one example for illustration, is that we've made a commitment to solar powering our region. And that's something that we're going to do. However, before we can try and incentivize people to boost economic growth and development in that area, we need to make sure we've got the right people with the skills to do the implementation of our ambition. So you can start to see how it becomes a supply chain to make sure that you can generate the enthusiasm and interest, that you can have the campaigns to create the growth, and equally only serve it by having the right people with the skills in order to do the implementation. You can see around culture and place, we are very clear that culture is our plan. We want that strong creative connectivity between culture, creativity, and of course that has opportunities to support economic growth, and also community. We want to bring our communities together. We are a very broad and rich community in our region. Around health and well-being, we were very clear that we need to engage better with our young workforce. And actually, we need to engage with our schools and colleges in a different way. We need to build a much more inclusive health and care economy, making sure that healthcare is an inclusive model, both within schooling, college, but also later in life. And act early was something that we're going to now be pushing with significant ambition. And finally, it was around really recognising that place and image is really important, and significant effort to try and build on Bradford's image, the positivity that we have, and of course the ambition that we have for our region. So in conclusion to the major themes that we saw, we have really 5 key conclusions that we've come up with. The first is that we must equip our young and diverse population with the skills needed, and that's not just about leaving with a degree, it's also about vocational skills and capabilities in order to succeed in life, and creating reflexive learners, that people that are really keen to learn throughout their life. We must support our businesses to use new technology to drive innovation, and that's something that we're going to try and provide much more opportunities to skill and upskill our existing companies, but also make sure that our early workforce have the skills and abilities to be adaptive, but also to promote innovation in the workplace. We really do need to leverage our cultural assets. We have some fantastic assets in our district, and we need to find ways of identifying and articulating and supporting those assets to encourage and promote economic growth. And that is something that we'll be putting a significant amount of effort into. And also we need to enable all our people to lead healthy and productive lives, because again, there's a very strong connectivity between a healthy workforce and a healthy economy. And that's not just about looking at today's economy, it's about future-proofing our economy. And finally, that transition into a decarbonised environment where we've got a decarbonised economy, and ensuring that our future economy is sustainable, is resilient, and of course connected. Now that's a very ambitious set of highlights that we came up with. What I want to do now is very briefly talk you through what the university, which Bradford only has one university and it's a central part of our district, is doing to respond to some of these ambitions. Now, much of what we're talking about are activities that are currently in place. We're talking about enhancing them. The School of Management was one that I chose to showcase our ideas, and as you can see, it's a well-regarded School of Management. In fact, it was the first School of Management in the UK. It's got a fantastic heritage of being in existence for over 50 years, and it operates globally, and we're very proud of our School of Management. And what the School of Management has been doing is really trying to redesign and redevelop its curriculum to ensure that the graduates are job ready, and the graduates are job ready to enter the workforce with the skills and aptitude to be successful. And much of the work that the school has been doing to redesign and redevelop its curriculum is really recognising the top 10 emerging sectors of growth and opportunity. And as you can see in the slide, these top 10 sectors are going to create 133 million jobs within a very short period of time. And it's really better understanding where the future growth and opportunity is coming from, and then trying to encourage and motivate our early workforce to ensure that we can develop their ability to be interested into developing skills that we believe are going to be aligned to where the next industrial revolution is going to lie, which will be tech enabled. We don't just provide opportunities of developing new skills within our curriculum. We have a whole variety of vocational skills that sit alongside our curriculum, and we work very closely through knowledge exchange networks with businesses to feed in their ideas of telling us what their challenges are, so that we can try and ensure we provide opportunities for learning for our students. And that opportunity comes through a whole variety of different ways. And our Career Booster program, as you can see, delivers lots of sessions to lots of students, and we really do take advantage of our network with local businesses and regional and national businesses. And because we work very closely with businesses, it really does help ensure that what we provide is actually what industry is telling us they need. What we also do is we have the Bradford Business Challenge, so all our undergraduate degrees are required to do a dissertation, and we try to make those dissertation focus really on live problems that businesses are facing. And what we found is that our students are able to get real world experience and actually often find employment with the businesses where they help support. So again, that's a connectivity to dealing with real world problems and ensuring our students are job ready. Most of our programs have industrial advisory boards, again, to ensure that what we deliver is relevant to the needs of businesses. And I think that's a really important point, because that relevance is terribly critical. And you can see there are a number of examples that we do. So for example, we deliver workshops with our community partners. So it's not just about developing skills for our students. What we do is we also offer free workshops for local businesses. A recent one that I popped into was making tax digital. As the UK moves to a very digitised tax submission system, we wanted to offer local businesses a series of short free courses to try and upskill our local businesses, because what we believe within the university is that if the local businesses do well, we will do well. If we do well, the local businesses can do better. And I think that interconnectivity, that relationship is very important to designing and developing a sustainable culture of partnership within your local civic environment. What we also do is we provide all our students with an opportunity to take a year out in industry, so students can take their third year out and spend a year working on company projects in companies. They often get paid for that experience, and that again gives our students real opportunity to develop life skills, and that's something that we're very proud of and trying to grow a lot more and trying to encourage many of our students to take a year out in industry to develop those critical job-ready skills. The other thing that we do that again is really important is to ensure that our students get real insight into what the world of work looks like. Now that's quite difficult in a School of Management, but the way we've managed to revision that is we take our students on real world tours. So whether that is a call centre where they get to see the interactivity between the relationship that you have to develop with your caller and to get a sense of what the working environment looks like, or whether it is to real world companies and understanding processes and understanding what that connectivity looks like between business processes and how you can re-engineer processes in order to create economic and social growth. So our world, our laboratory are often the businesses, and we do spend a lot of time taking our students out into the real world, into the laboratory, which is the company, in order to give them that insight and understanding and expectation of what a good company operates like. And finally, just to give you some insight into how our work has been rewarded, well, we are currently number 22 in the UK's ranking of entrepreneurial impact universities, which for the size of the university that we are, and we are a medium-sized university in the UK, I think is a fantastic result and does demonstrate that we are really punching above our weight. And I'm sure that a further investment with a further focus on the Bradford economic recovery strategy that will help ensure that the University of Bradford plays a role in supporting our regional economy will ensure further success. Thank you very much. I will happily end it there.
Thank you very much, Professor Irani. That was really interesting, and that work is fascinating. I have a question. You talked about interconnectivity. You talked about working with schools and developing new and to help them develop new and raise existing skill levels. What might this mean for school curricula in terms of meeting the demands, the new demands of universities? And I think a question that's especially relevant to us, how important might languages be in this?
Yeah, unfortunately, we've seen a real decline in languages probably over the last 2 decades in the UK, and it's a real pity. Having said that, I think there is a real opportunity now, because I think what we've seen is through COVID is a real opportunity to connect with people around the world in a way that perhaps we never were able to. So the use of Zoom sessions or Teams-based sessions or social media, I think has really brought to the forefront the need and the ability to, in a far easier way, connect with parts of the world that we perhaps weren't able to. And I think what that is going to do is boost the opportunity and probably the desire and demand of students with a broader set of skills. It is something that we've started to actually rethink of how we can create more skills development for our students to develop their linguistic skills, because I think that will open up new potentials for businesses to enter new markets. So I actually do think that there was a very localized view of business growth, and I actually do think what COVID has done is open the world up to be much more smaller and recognizing that technology means that you can enter new markets. And of course that will mean that there's an expectation of being able to communicate with your partners and suppliers. And I think that you may well find, I will hope that we were able to encourage our students to develop their skills capability a lot more. I think in terms of your other point around the skills needed in school, that there's an interesting fine line between what is educational and what's vocational. Now, if you speak to businesses, what they really want is they want students that have got the skills to deliver today's needs. And we really do try to educate our employees by really making it very clear to them that what we're trying to do is develop learners that can understand how they learn and have got the ability to learn new skills and have got ability to reflect on how their learning happens. And I think the real answer moving forward is a bit of both. And what we are trying to do with good success at the University of Bradford is to ensure that we graduate students that really can understand the ability of developing new skills, that understand how they learn, but also have some capable skills that are needed by businesses. And of course, it's that rounded graduate, I think, that is going to be the employable graduate of the future. Now, there was a lot of discussion historically around the T-shaped graduate, which recognised you need some broad skills because you're likely to be employed in probably 2 sectors throughout your working life. Now that has largely been dispelled now, because actually what we are now seeing is the need for broad skills, and the fact is over your lifetime you're likely to be employed perhaps in up to 4 different sectors, and therefore real specific skills can often be seen as limiting you. And I think what you do need is broad skills and the ability to flex in and out of sectors as your interests move, but also as job opportunities move. And I'll give you an example. I actually trained as an engineer, but I then moved into computer science. I then moved into being an academic, having worked in the public sector. So I've kind of exercised 4 different sectors, and I'm not untypical. There are many people I think that are certainly that can demonstrate where they've moved in and out of sectors throughout their career, and I think that is going to become a lot more common, especially as we're seeing lots of students now enter the world of work into what they call the gig economy, where actually you're not really employed by anybody. You're often self-employed, and you might work across many sectors, and you'll need to have a lot of broad skills.
Yeah, I think so. I think that you know, your presentation and that answer at the end, that resonates very much here in a country where we have very high youth unemployment and where the prospects for the future are, you know, as you said, maybe also limited, and the need for education to rise to that challenge and not simply reproduce what maybe has been the case in situations earlier where we had a very different employability and employment environments. Thank you very much, Professor Rani. It's a pleasure to have had you with us.
Thank you.
And I think that really brings us nearly to the end of the seminar. Estamos ya llegando al fin de este seminario. I hope you found it interesting. I hope you found it enjoyable. I hope you found it stimulating. As we said at the beginning, this is very much part of our celebrations of 25 years of the bilingual education program, which is very, very much at the center of the work the British Council does in Spain through the work of our school. I hope that the conversation with Secretary de Estado, Alejandro Tiana, and with our director, Mark Howard, was interesting and threw a little bit of light on the history of the program, on the current situation and our plans for the future. And then thank you again to the 2 plenary speakers who have contributed as well to this celebration, and also to making us think about what we need to be looking at in education in the future. So I'd like to say thank you to all of those people. A thank you to the people behind the scenes. I think it's important that we mention my colleagues Maureen McAlinden, who put this whole thing together, online, virtual, live, etc., and to Carolina Jimenez, who's been writing all those comments to you in English and Spanish. That's a really, really difficult job. Thank you. And I'd also like to thank all the people, you know, 25 years of celebration, 25 years of program, it's a lot of people to thank. So just to make it short, I'd like to thank my colleagues at the Ministerio de Educación y Formación Profesional and in the Comunidades Autónomas, who've been our partners in this program for 25 years and still want to talk to us, which is a good thing. I also especially want to thank the 147 schools of the program, and in those schools, the heads of those schools, and especially, again, the teachers in those schools. You know, the teachers, as always in programs like this, they're the backbone of the program and the heart of the program. And although it's obvious, it's worth saying that without the teachers, we don't have a program. So thank you very much for everything you've done, everything you're doing, and everything that we hope you'll continue doing. You'll see going on, presumably below me, the names of some of the people from our program schools, heads, teachers, and from our British Council School who've been working with us in the working groups that are currently underway, looking at how we can develop, renew, replan, rethink the program, reassess what we're doing. And also you'll see the names of some of the people who've been involved in this celebration process, who've been our panelists on our rethinking assessment, rethinking inclusion, and rethinking quality assurance panels and discussions that we've had building up to today. But I want to leave the last words to some very young children in the Colegio San Bautista de Madrid with this lovely video, and I'm going to leave you with them. So thank you everyone for joining us. Gracias por acompañarnos. Cuidaos mucho. Stay safe, stay well. Thank you. And here is San Juan Bautista, the children, San Juan Bautista.